So this video actually started from a conversation at work because one of my coworkers, she wanted a record player for her condo. So she has a smaller place, so she didn't want anything with, you know, the full setup, but she still wanted something that sounded good. And that's kind of a hard middle ground to find, right? And so I reached out to Andover Music and said, hey, are you willing to collaborate with me so I can test this out? And their response was pretty much straightforward. This is exactly what this system was built for. And so I've been using this now for a couple months, and I'm going to share my thoughts on who I think it's for, the sound quality, the build quality, all of those things, because typically an all-in-one system isn't the best, but that's not the case here. So thank you to Andover for sending this out to test. But as always, this is an honest and transparent use case focused on the buyer in mind. And I just want to give you enough information so that you can make an educated decision on whether or not you should add this to your setup. So let's jump into it. So before we get too far into the review, let me explain what this is. This is basically 3 different components that is sold as an all-in-one system. So you have the spin deck on the top, which is the turntable. You have the Spinbase, which is going to be your speakers, Bluetooth receiver, etc. And then you have the subwoofer at the bottom, and there's also a stand that you can purchase as well. That gives you a full all-in-one setup. Now, the nice thing about this is that these are all high-quality parts individually that create this basic all-in-one setup. If you want to upgrade in the future, you can definitely replace the Spinbase with speakers and receiver. It's designed to be a standalone system so that you don't need anything else. That's a really nice part about it, is that there's flexibility and an upgrade path if you want it in the future. But as it is, you don't need any of the other things. You're going to get a nice system as is right out of the box. Spin deck, but you have to put it together. It's only like 3 pieces. And then, you know, the Spinbase is 1 piece. You sit it on top. You put the spin deck on top, and then the subwoofer goes in the bottom, and then you just connect the cables. And just like that, you're from box to music in about 15 minutes if you're comfortable with it, and maybe about 30 minutes if you're not and you need to read through the manual. But all in all, it's a really easy, fast setup, which is the really nice thing about this, because when you're new to audio, especially like hi-fi audio, it can be a task understanding like the receiver, the spin, you know, the turntable, and the speakers, the subwoofers, the cables, etc. Whereas this isn't that complicated. It's super simple. Now, this was the big surprise. When I first turned this on, I was surprised at how full the sound is, because typically when you have one speaker that's playing, right, this has forward-facing speakers, and then the sound kind of cones out like this. And so when you have both the speaker, the Spinbase, as well as the subwoofer, you have all of the frequencies covered, right? You got your highs, your mids, your lows, and it works really well together. You can definitely tell that these are components that were built to work together, because you get that full range of sound. And that's one thing that you have to look out for when you're buying like an all-in-one solution, right? A lot of all-in-one solutions that I've used in the past, including those that come with, you know, left and right channel speakers, don't sound the best. And that's where this one is surprisingly really good. And I say surprisingly because I do have hi-fi systems with the receiver, amps, multiple speakers, like 5-in-1 system and things like that. And so to get all of this sound out of just these 2 speakers, which is the Spinbase and then the subwoofer at the bottom, I was really surprised. And so if you're wondering if this sounds good, the answer is yes. And I'm going to play a sound sample for you so that you can hear it. So I'm going to play sound sample through Bluetooth, and then I'm also going to play sound sample through the turntable at the top. Probably going to get copyright strike for this, so obviously I'm not going to make any money from this video, but this is really important, because before you spend this amount of money, I want to make sure that it sounds good to you. So here it is.
Good.
So if you're thinking about this as kind of like a centerpiece for your sound system and you don't have a big space, this is definitely something that you can use. And this adds a lot of versatility so that you don't have to be limited to just the record player, and you're getting a lot more for the value as far as what you're playing. You're getting a really good record player setup, but at the same time, you're also getting the ability to stream other devices to it. So that way also, if you don't have a big record collection when you start up, you can still listen to music. For those of you that are needing to see the specs, right, to really understand like if this is a good purchase, I'm going to put the specs here in the lower thirds, and so you can see those. But as far as the system itself, there's a reason that it sounds so good, right? So you have the record player that's separated from the speakers, which removes any vibrations or weird noises or interference and things like that. Sometimes you have the speakers built into the turntable, and then that causes lower sound quality, etc., in some of those all-in-one systems. And so this is a much better setup. And, that separation is what makes this sound really good, because even though it's not a full hi-fi system, you do have separate components. But honestly, at the end of the day, the specs only tell so much of the story. In living with this for the last couple months, this sounds really, really good. And you let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. The sound sample that I played earlier, is this good enough for you to consider it as purchasing it? Or let me know in the comment section below kind of what your system is and how you think it stacks up. The simplicity of it, it makes it something that you can listen to actively, meaning sit down and listen to music, right? And really enjoy it and be immersed by the sound. Or it's something that you can play in the background without a lot of fuss. Like I can put a record on, start it, and then let it go and let it play. I don't have to worry about any, settings or anything like that. There's even a microphone in, so you can, not a microphone. There's even a headphone in, so you can plug in some headphones and you can listen to headphones as well on the side of the spin deck. So there's a lot of versatility in the way that you can listen to this. But over the last 2 months, I've really enjoyed listening to this. And it's good for, smaller environments like my office setup right here, but it also fits well in my living room and is strong enough to fill up that space with sound, which has the, very high ceilings, and the sound is good enough for that space as well. Before you spend your hard-earned money, here's what you need to know before making this purchase. There's 3 major things. The first thing, as I said this whole time, this is a super simple setup right here, but this is a true plug-and-play system as it is. So if you enjoy like that pre-process, and changing your components and different things like that, that's not necessarily in the box here, although you have the versatility for that in the future. There's a preamp and all of that built into the spin deck that you can bypass for this particular system. And then when you update later, you have everything you need within this. The second thing is the speakers are forward facing, right? And so you have to sit directly in front of this because you don't have multiple speakers where you can kind of shape the sound and things like that. So you need to be sitting directly on, and then there's like a slight cone outward away from the front. But for best listening, you want to be directly in front of this. And lastly, the price. It's $1,300, which for a hi-fi system, that is extremely affordable. But if this is your first soiree into this world, then that might be a little bit of a jump for you. But what I can say is this whole kit together is definitely worth the price. And I think that it would be a lot more expensive if you were to go out and buy these, components separately, like different labels and different brands. I think you would spend a lot more money than this. So shout out to Andover for making this extremely affordable. And so I think those are the 3 things that you have to be aware of, that at $1,300, it's not cheap. It doesn't sound cheap either, but at $1,300 for the hi-fi edge of hi-fi, it's extremely affordable. So it's kind of like a really curious dichotomy there as far as the price goes. And then make sure that you have a space where you can sit directly on. But if you do have to put it in a corner, then you just have to tilt it out from the corner so it won't sit flush with the corner. You'll have to turn it so that it's facing towards where you're sitting still. I can easily recommend this to 3 different people. I think there's a really broad spectrum of people that can enjoy this. So the first is that person that is getting into vinyl for the first time and they really want to understand what it's like, but you don't want to throw your money away on that first purchase. So you want something that you can have for a while and grow and then eventually upgrade it. I think it has that perfect versatility and that perfect kind of middle ground there between quality, affordability, and the output. The second is someone that's getting back into vinyl, but you don't feel like paying for a full setup right now. And the third person is someone that may already have that full hi-fi level system already in your home somewhere in like a main, listening area, but you want a second setup for another space that sounds good and there's not a big drop off. So again, I think there's a broad spectrum for that. So there's a lot of versatility here. And if that fits any of your, your use cases, then I think you would be the perfect person for that. So I'll put the link in the description below in case you want to go check it out on their website. But let me know any questions that you may have. As always, I appreciate you hanging out with us. And if you're new to the channel and you like today's content, consider subscribing. And as always, stay cozy in that crazy world, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.